I wanted to revisit the idea of inlaying wood using the Whiteside Inlay kit. It's a router kit that allows you to accurately copy a shape, cut out a insert, and cut out a hollowed space to accept that insert, all very accurately. I had built a bunch of boxes as gifts and had another one on the way using the letter N. Went to Hobby Lobby to pick up a pattern, and here is that pattern, and here is the process, a three-step process. The first step in this process is to create a template. A template, it's sort of the outline that you're going to use for creating the insert piece and for hollowing out your work piece to accept that insert. So you're creating a template. I've used this 1/4 inch MDF as my template material. It holds an edge fairly well. It's easy to cut through with the little 1/8 inch bit on the Whiteside kit. I simply use double-sided tape to tape the pattern, which is that white letter N there that I got at Home Depot. It's just a 6-inch letter. I use double-sided tape to tape that pattern to the insert or to the template material so that once you've started cutting, you won't have movement, because if it moves at all on the template material, you're going to have an inaccurate template. So I wanted the template to be stuck to the pattern, and I wanted the template to be clamped down to the table so that as I was routing, it wouldn't be moving around. I wanted the piece that was removed out of the center and the template around that piece to both stay still after I had finished the cut. So I located that tape so that there would be tape both on the piece I cut out and holding the template material. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the idea is once you've cut that center loose, I just didn't want parts sort of flopping around. So I simply taped down this pattern material to the template material, got a nice firm bed with which to work on. Now, in cutting this out, you want to use the bushing with no spacer, so the tight bushing. And when you're setting up the bushing, I'm showing here this centering tool that they give you. It's very important that you use this. You put this little centering device in your collet, and then as you put the bushing on your router, it allows you to ensure, as you tighten down that bushing, to ensure that it's dead center on the bit. The importance of this can't be overstated because the bit is a little bit smaller than the opening of the bushing, and if it is off center at all, as you go around your pattern and then later go around your insert or go around your cutout, there'll be some inaccuracies. So this first cut, the first 2 cuts are done without that spacer, basically following the pattern of that white letter N. And something else that you want to keep in mind, you want to maintain pressure against the pattern with the bushing. You want that bushing always tight up against the edge of the pattern. If you wander away from the pattern, you're going to wreck the template that you're trying to make. Again, the part that you're keeping out of all this is the outside. of this letter. It's the big piece of MDF there on the outside of the letter. So you want to maintain pressure with that bushing on your router up against the edge of the letter so that you're not going to get an irregular outline on that template. I guess I've made that clear. You've got to keep the pressure, nice even pressure against the edge of your pattern so that the cutout is accurate and it doesn't have any wandering around on it. I'll speed this up a little bit just to get this done, but that's the idea. Maintain pressure against the edge of the pattern. And once that is cut out, you'll see that the part we want to save is not the white letter N. It's not that letter N that is now under that white letter N. No, it's the hollow thing that I just set down. It's the template. That's the important part. The template. With that template, you're going to use that very template to make the insert piece and to cut out your work piece that the insert will fit into. So it's the template. That's the part you want to save. And again, you've created that without the spacer on your router kit and holding the bearing up against the edge of your pattern. So here's a couple of pieces of walnut I'm going to use. I glued those up. I sent them through my planer to thin them down. I wanted to get them down to about, I'd say I'm at about 3/16 clear black walnut. And I'm just trying out the size of that. The insert that you're going to cut out of the walnut's going to be the exact same size as that white letter N, because you've gone on the outside of the letter. Now you're going to go on the outside of the letter again, only it's going to be made out of walnut instead of white plastic. Hope that makes some sense. So here I'm just orienting the grain, kind of making sure I'm going to be happy with the cutout I get. Again, I'm going to double-sided tape the walnut to the table around the end and on the end. Then I'm going to double-sided tape the template to the walnut so nothing will scoot around. And again, using the router with the spacer removed, I'm cutting around the edge of the template, and what I want to end up with is the letter N made out of walnut. Again, it will be just like the white plastic pattern that I bought at the Hobby Lobby. So, and this step 2, just like step 1, it's very important that you maintain even pressure with the bushing against the edge of the template. If you wander off of the template, you're going to ruin your insert because you're going to take some wood away from it that you can't put back. So as you're guiding this router around that template, you want to make sure you've maintained pressure against the edge of the template during the entire process. You do not want to wander off the edge of that template, or you'll ruin your insert and you'll have to start over again. So I just slowly work my way around, keeping the pressure on the edge of the template as I finish off this letter N. And you're going to see here in a minute a couple of things that you want to keep in mind. Because that template came down to 2 sharp points, just where the letter N intersects, you end up with rounded. You see how they're rounded on the plastic N? Those triangle intersections are pretty sharp pointed. On the insert, they're rounded. And that's just a function of the diameter of the bit. I just took this picture to illustrate how many parts you've created so far, and really all you want to save from this is the walnut letter N and the template. And the template, because of those two sharp points, at least in the letter N, one of those points, because it is MDF and it's not as hard as rock, one of those points got a little bit damaged. And I had to have those sharp so that when I created the cutout in the workpiece, I got a matching shape on those intersections. So I literally had to take, here's a close-up of that point, I literally had to take a little bit of Bondo and repair that edge. So now finally I've got my workpiece. You can see that flat on the table, again, double-sided tape so it won't move on me. I have the template taped down to the workpiece, and now I'm using the router with the spacer installed. What that does is holds the router bit an extra 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the template, which is representing the inside of your cutout and represents the outside of your insert. Now, in the first two steps, it was important to maintain pressure against either the edge of the pattern or the edge of the template. In this case, you can be kind of reckless because the spacer on the router kit is holding you away from the edge of the template at the proper distance, and everything on the inside you're going to try to hollow out. So you can be a little reckless. You still have to make sure you've gone around the entire perimeter of the template, but if you wander on the inside of that void space, you're not going to hurt yourself because all that wood has to be removed anyway. Once you've done the outside edge, you can remove it many different ways with a chisel, or just zigzag that 1/8 inch bit back and forth until you've gotten all the wood out of there. You can see I'm just taking a look here to see how I'm doing. I'm doing a little zigzagging around, and then I decided, you know, it'd be easier yet to get another router bit that is wider, that takes more wood out per pass. And so I removed the inlay kit from my router, put on a larger bushing, a larger flat router bit. As long as my spacing holds me far enough away from the edge of the template so as not to wreck the outside edge of the cutout, I can't hurt myself. So once I'd adjusted my depth, I was able to way more quickly with the larger router bit hollow out the remaining part of my workpiece so that it would be ready to accept the insert. You can see I'm just wandering around on there. It's leaving a few little islands behind, a few places where the router bearing won't fit, and I just left some pieces that were pretty easy to either take care of this method or take a chisel and knock them out. At this point, you're ready to take the template off. You don't need it anymore for this job. You've got your workpiece now. It's got the cutout done. That's going to fit your insert. Here I am just testing it for fit for the first time. And I won't try to fool you. It's not a perfect fit first time. It's super tight because it's so close to dead on that it took a little bit of tweaking. I took a tiny little file and just kind of smoothed the inside edges of my cutout. Just kind of went around the perimeter of that, just smoothing those a little bit just to take any roughness off of them. I worked my way around all those flat surfaces. Used a tiny little chisel to just kind of refine every straight section that I could get to. just to make that insert want to slip in and out a little bit easier. It fits so tight that if you press it in and then have to pull it back out, there's actually a pretty easy chance of splitting it. So you kind of just have to finesse this part. Here I am with a chisel, just kind of cleaning up some little tiny imperfections. And so do a test fit. Gets really, really close, but still needs just ever so much adjusting. You can see it's so tight I can barely get it back out. So a few test fits, a few readjustments, another test fit, a little bit of sandpaper, maybe another little tiny file, another little chisel, just a tiny bit at a time. And finally, you get to where it's going to slide in. You can tell it's going to go in all the way. Once you've glued it and put it in all the way, you're not getting it back out. So you definitely want to kind of be sure of your size and sure of your fit before you get committed to the final glue job. So just after, again, a few test fits, a few trial and errors and trials and back and forth until I was confident that it would go in tight. Then I just took my glue brush, painted a little bit of glue down into the workpiece so as not to get glue all over the edges, and just tapped it home. I used a block of wood to tap on it because I didn't want the chance. Those little wings, the little serifs on that letter are, cross grained, so they would easily snap off if I wasn't careful. So once I had it flat, I used a little block of wood and a wooden mallet, put some glue on the bottom, tapped it home, and I was pretty happy with the way it was going to look. There still needs to be some sanding for leveling. There are some tiny, tiny, tiny imperfections that I just took the rest of the walnut and took my sander on the surface, sanded it to create a bunch of walnut dust, and rubbed that around on the surface. It tends to fill in all the little micro imperfections. I think I got a pretty good finished product here. There's all the parts and pieces, and there's the finished job there with a little bit of finish on it. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.